Well, hey there. Welcome to the Mark Wendell Leadership Podcast. I'm your host, Mark Wendell, where we talk about life, leadership, and culture. So today, Democrats versus Republicans. You probably read this title and you already got excited or maybe aggravated. Interesting topic. I recently watched a video by Prager University on Instagram. They were on a college campus and just interviewed a bunch of people. Obviously some were Democrats and some were Republicans, and they asked them, would you be friends with somebody with the opposite political views? Like, would a Democrat be friends with a Republican, and would a Republican be friends with a Democrat? And it was interesting, the Democrats, most of them said, I forget the exact percentage, most of them said no, they would not be friends with Republicans, and more Republicans said they would be friends with Democrats than vice versa. So you don't even have to be a part of the United States of America to know the stress and the tensions between Democrats and Republicans. So I'll just pause right there and let's dive into some scripture, because believe it or not, there's a similar story with the dynamics of two different parties, in a sense, that do not get along whatsoever. So I'm just going to get my YouVersion Bible app out and read in Luke chapter 10. I'm reading in the NIV version, and I'm going to start in verse 25. And this is the parable of the Good Samaritan. So it says, on one occasion, an expert in the law stood up to test Jesus. Teacher, he asked, what must I do to inherit eternal life? What is it written in the law? He replied. How do you read it? He answered, love the Lord your God with all your heart, with all your soul, and with all your strength, and with all your mind, and love your neighbor as yourself. Jesus said, you have answered correctly. Then Jesus replied, do this and you will live. But he wanted to justify himself, so he asked Jesus, and who is my neighbor? So Jesus just said, or it's written, that we are supposed to love your neighbor as yourself. And then this man says, so yeah, who's my neighbor? This is the story that Jesus gives us. This is the parable. It says, in reply, Jesus said, a man was going down from Jerusalem to Jericho. And it doesn't say this in the NIV, but it says this in other versions. So this man is a Jew, a Jewish man. So this Jewish man was going down from Jerusalem to Jericho. When he was attacked by robbers, they stripped him of his clothes, beat him, and went away, leaving him half dead. A priest happened to be going down the same road, and when he saw the man, he passed by on the other side. So too, a Levite, when he came to the place and saw him, passed by on the other side. But a Samaritan, as he traveled, came where the man was, and when he saw him, he took pity on him. He went to him and bandaged his wounds, pouring on oil and wine. Then he put the man on his own donkey, brought him to an inn, and took care of him. The next day he took out 2 denarii and gave them to the innkeeper. Look after him, he said. When I return, I will reimburse you for any extra expense you may have. Which of these 3 do you think was a neighbor to the man who fell into the hands of the robber? The expert in the law replied, the one who had mercy on him. Jesus told him, go and do likewise. So just in case you didn't know, the dynamic between Samaritans and Jews was terrible. They did not get along. They did not affiliate with each other. They didn't talk to each other. Jews and Samaritans did not get along. But in this story, this Samaritan saw this Jewish man beat down, half dead. He was robbed, stripped of his clothes, and he took pity on him and he helped him. And it's an amazing, beautiful story. And honestly, if we really look at it, it can be challenging with the dynamics of how we treat the other political party. Because Jesus says we should love our neighbor as ourselves. And just so you'll know, I'm a Republican. I'm proud of it. And, there may be some Democrats listening, and you may already just be like, oh man, I did not want to hear that. But guess what? It's okay, right? Because after all, we are all children of God, and each and every one of us matters. And I kind of want the theme of this podcast, this episode, to, in a sense, be let's agree to disagree. I feel like we've kind of lost that art in our country, in the United States of America. We've lost the art of being able to agree to disagree. There's some political beliefs that you may have different. That doesn't mean I should see you differently. Now, on the flip side, there are certain beliefs, I'm just going to say, that Democrats hold, like abortion, that there's kind of no agreeing to disagree on my part. I just think abortion is evil. But at the same time, if you are a person who believes in abortion, I'm not gonna hate you. I'm still like, my attitude is I can still have a conversation with you. If we were at an event and I figured out that you believed in abortion, I would love to talk to you about that. And hey, maybe I could change your mind. That would be great. But I see so many people, Republicans and Democrats and Republicans. It's like there is so much hatred towards each other, and it does no good. Now, yet, like I just mentioned, like on the topic of abortion, I think that is an aspect that is worth fighting for. But then there's other things where they're not real gospel issues. I believe that the Republican Party is closer to what the Bible and the morals and the values and the ethics that the Bible holds. My point is, let's not communicate in hatred. Let's communicate with love. And at the same time, like, obviously, like the topic of abortion, that's really serious. So I'm not saying like we need to say, oh, you believe in abortion, and just undermine that and say, I'm just going to like be too, I don't know what word I'm looking for, lovey-dovey kind of, that abortion is something we should fight for. It's extremely important because I don't think any innocent baby should be killed. But we can all talk to each other respectfully, and I'm just saying, like, if somebody disagrees with me and they are just screaming their opinion at me, I'm going to turn off and not respect or listen to anything that they have to say. So let's think how we communicate. Let's just say, hey, it's interesting that you believe that. I would like to hear them out, and then say, hey, can I share my perspective with you? Because if you go to somebody and you take your time to listen to their perspective, if they're a decent human being, they should give you time back for you to present your perspective. Let's love our neighbors as ourselves. I hope you love yourself because you were created in the image of God. You are fearfully and wonderfully made. And if you have a relationship with Jesus, you should have confidence. And I just feel like we have lost the art of loving our neighbor as ourselves. We have lost the art of putting our differences aside. Let's agree to disagree. Like, hey, we don't see eye to eye on these things, but let's put that aside and let's grill some burgers together, kind of thing. Like, let's be neighbors. Let's be community. And let's live the example that Jesus just set, the story, the parable of the Good Samaritan. The Samaritan helps this Jew. The Samaritan doesn't get along with the Jew, nor does the Jew get along with the Samaritan. But they put their differences aside. The Samaritan puts their difference aside and helps this man. And I hope this is challenging you. It's challenging me. Division is evil. It's destructive. Hatred is evil and destructive. And maybe we would do a lot more good. Maybe we would gain a lot more ground talking to the other party, the person who has a different political view, if we didn't talk so loud and with hatred and talking to them like they're an idiot. Like, it's rude. And I I mean, look at our country. Look at the difference, the dynamic, the relationship between Republicans and Democrats right now. It's terrible. It's awful. And you can do something to make a difference. I had an interview with Isaac Elsner a couple months ago, and that's on the podcast. And he said, every man wants to change the world, but in fact, if they would change themselves, they would change the world. I don't think that's the exact wording, but along that lines is if you can change yourself, be more open-minded, and live the life of loving your neighbor as yourself, that is the beginning of changing the world, of changing the United States of America and changing this hatred culture, this cancel culture, this, if you don't believe what I believe, you're just wrong, and there's just so much hatred and arguments. And I don't know about you, but I'm sick and tired of it. Can we just put some differences aside and treat each other like normal human beings? And at the same time, like I said earlier, of course, I understand there are issues worth arguing about and fighting about because they're really serious. They're big moral, ethical issues. But I'm talking about these little things are just, because I do believe there's Democrats out there who believe abortion is wrong. Now, I don't know if I've met one of them, but at the same time, like, let's just communicate with respect and love and kindness, and let's see what it does. Because I believe that it'll change the dynamic of our country. But it has to start with you and me and us. And we gotta change the way we think. We gotta change the way we talk, how we talk. And I really do believe it will make a difference. So I want to challenge you. Really love your neighbor as yourself, because in that parable, it doesn't say love your like-minded friend as yourself. Love your neighbor as yourself. For instance, I just moved into a neighborhood. I didn't get to choose my neighbor's beliefs, values, who they are, their character, but I get along with them, and we do. I mean, I can just, by talking to them, I can already tell that there will be some things that we disagree on, but they're my neighbor. I'm into dirt bikes, and one of my neighbors are into dirt bikes. We connect with dirt bikes. We put other differences aside. It's a beautiful, great thing. So let's love our neighbor as ourselves. Let's be the example that Jesus is calling us to be and bridge that gap, just like the Samaritan put their differences aside and helps the Jew. Let's be the difference. Let's be the way maker, and let's see what we can do. I believe it will be awesome. So with that being said, thank you so much for watching or listening. I really do appreciate it. If you could do me a favor, please hit that like and subscribe button. It shows these platforms that this is good content, and it boosts it in the algorithm. Stay tuned. I have some more exciting, good, entertaining episodes for you guys. Be blessed, be a blessing, and go make a difference.